All right, so it's time for us to make sure that we know the orchestra instruments. So an orchestra, some of you guys have seen an orchestra, some of you guys have taken a trip from school to the orchestra down in Reno. The orchestra has a lot of instruments, and we group the instruments into 4 categories, and we call the categories families. There's a woodwind family, a brass family, a string family, and a percussion family. 4 families. And I'm going to show you the names of these families on your screen. So let's take a look. And I'd like you to write down these words. And we're going to make a list of all the instruments. So get a piece of paper, get a pencil, get a marker board. It's nice if it's paper, something you can keep. But if you got an iPad or a tablet or whatever you've got, is that you can save it. So the first one is woodwind. If you look right here on your screen, I'm going to take a little marker and I'm going to draw on here. The first half of this word is wood. Now, in the old days, all the instruments in the woodwind family would have been made out of wood. We use metal for some of them now, but the traditional name sticks. And the second half is wind. I'm underlining that here. And wind has to do with your breath. So woodwind instruments are instruments that traditionally were made of wood and used breath. And so that includes flute and clarinet and other instruments. We'll get to those. Now, let me jump into our next family. And you can see the word right here. And the word is brass. So make sure you write that down. Now, leave room under woodwind for instruments we're going to add. Leave room under brass for instruments we're going to add. I want you to write these things down. Brass, B-R-A-S-S. That's a kind of metal. And traditionally, all these instruments would have been made out of brass. Now, it's still true today that these instruments are made out of metal. And most of the time it does have brass in it, or it looks like brass. Now, our next family, the third one, is strings. Now, this one's pretty easy. Now, right away, some of you are thinking guitar, but this is the orchestra. So not guitar, but violins. So violins, there's a whole group of them, and also the harp. So write down strings. I'm putting a box around that with my mouse. Strings. And then let me clear that, and we'll go to our last family, which is percussion. Now I'm going to underline per, P-E-R, and then this last part here, cushion, has to do with striking or hitting. Something gets hit. The word cushion is not a word we use very much, but percussion is instruments that are struck or hit to make a sound, like drums, cymbals, triangles, all sorts of different instruments. There's thousands and thousands of instruments in the percussion family. The orchestra uses percussion instruments, and we'll take a look at some of those today. And we probably couldn't look at all of them. There's so many. So we're going to go back now and start with woodwind. Now, hopefully you've written down woodwind, brass, strings, percussion. You got those written down. And let's go ahead and take a look at our instruments for the woodwind family. And we're going to start with the low instrument, which is called the bassoon. And let's take a listen to that.
The bassoons. The clarinets. The oboes. The flutes. The piccolo. Together, the woodwind section sounds like this. That is the woodwind section.